Hi, and welcome to Say Grace, Food for Thought and Hospitality. I'm Steve Palmer, and I invite you to join me as we explore the stories behind leaders in the hospitality industry and beyond. Say Grace is a place to reflect, connect, and savor thoughtful narratives. Everyone has a seat at our table. So pull up a chair and let's discover the transformative power of hospitality together. Hello, campers. It's Stevie Claus, back again at this wonderful time of year. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the other holidays that you may celebrate. We're looking back today, sharing some little clips, some buzzy moments from the year that has been Say Grace. And I think about my conversation with Mickey Baxt, my bubby, Danny Meyer, Randy Garudi, like, holy crap, the people I've had on Say Grace this first year. It's, I'm just really, really, really grateful. I'm really thankful that everybody has said yes. I don't think I've had, I'm looking at my producer, I don't think I've had a no yet, which is kind of crazy. I'm waiting for the no, not really. All of you that I'm going to ask, you are not allowed to say no. But the people that have given their time, given me space to have conversations, our industry is so rich. I started this podcast, quite frankly, because I was tired of hearing so many negative stories about hospitality. I think we're the best industry in the world. I think we're filled with the most interesting, creative, hospitable, generous people. And I'm just excited to share a few clips from you, with you, of the individuals that made this year great. So watch, be inspired, and most of all, I hope you have an amazing holiday season. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. So for you to say we're going to be the number one restaurant in the world, it's not like there's, you can download the guide of this is what you need to do. How did you know you were going to win, or you just knew you were going to try like hell?
I mean, I think it's one of the superpowers of youth.
Okay. How old were you when you were?
So
in
I was
30?
24 when I became the general manager at 11 Madison.
Holy crap! I didn't realize you were that young.
And I was in my late 30s when we became number one, maybe 36.
Okay.
And I think when I like to talk about superpowers, because I think everyone needs to understand what theirs are at various. Just generally, everyone has superpowers.
Right, sure.
But then I think we also have superpowers at different seasons in life. And in the absence of naming our superpowers, we have an inability to leverage them fully.
Okay. So it's important to name your superpowers.
100%. It's important, which is hard for people in our industry, especially those of us in the dining room, because I think we celebrate humility. And yet, naming your own superpowers feels the very opposite of humble.
Right.
But I actually think it does require humility, because the moment you have to say in front of other people, I am really good at this, you are inviting them to say, I mean, really? Are you?
You're inviting the criticism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's actually a vulnerable thing to do.
Very, very.
But I think when you are young, you have a couple different superpowers. One is a beginner's mindset, where you are not so laden with experience that you have an inability to look at something through a fresh set of eyes and identify how it could be done differently than it's been done in the past. Two is that you're willing to take bigger risks.
Right.
Because you have much less to lose. And three, you have a confidence that the more you learn about the world, the more of life you experience, is harder to fully tap into.
To have that, yeah.
If you've ever, not to continue using skiing metaphors, but if you've ever seen like an 8-year-old ski,
no fear.
They've never broken a bone on the ski slope. They're going to do things that we are not going to do.
Yeah.
And so I genuinely believed with every ounce of my being that we would become number one. Then it was about just how to accomplish it. And I think with any big goal, there's always two ways in. One, to just build the best thing you possibly can using your own unique point of view and trying to be the most excellent version
Right.
of yourself and build the most excellent version of that thing. While also adding something to the conversation.
Sure.
But then two, to like take playing the game as seriously as you take trying to build that thing.
Right.
At any of these awards, I think there's so many people who don't want to play the game and then they get frustrated that they don't win it.
Right.
You have to play the game in order to win it.
Can't win if you don't play.
And you need to understand the rules of the game.
Right.
You need to invest as much of yourself into that as you are building the team that has the chance of winning.
Right.
And so I tried to do both of those simultaneously with that specific award, recognizing that the awards are beautiful motivations.
Yeah.
Especially when you are leading a team. It's great to have
Yes.
a tangible goal to pursue, while also realizing that they are not destinations, they are motivations. And if you are able to delineate those two things, understand that they're not one and the same, I think that's when you are truly called to greatness. The award is not the goal.
Right.
The award is the motivation for the goal, which is to try to just be the best version of yourself and hopefully in doing so change the conversation a little bit.
The infinite journey.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I talk about that a lot. How gratifying was it to win?
Oh, it was the best.
Yeah.
I just think when you give all of yourself for such a long period of time,
Right.
and then those efforts are validated, you need to give yourself the grace to celebrate.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the idea that there's one restaurant that is the best in the world is inherently insane.
Right.
There's too many. It's too subjective. What I
Right.
do believe, though, at least then, I mean, now once you win it once, you're not even in contention anymore. So it's changed a little bit.
I didn't realize that.
But then whether it was El Bouilly or Noma or the French Laundry, like when you earn the top spot, what it means is you're the restaurant having the greatest impact on the world of restaurants. And so for me especially, I mean, we became number one because of our approach to hospitality and the idea that hospitality could take center stage at those awards, which to that point had always been just about the food.
Right.
Had you asked me back then what my goals in my career were, I would have said it's twofold. I want to build the best restaurants I possibly can, and I want to make hospitality cool. I don't want it to be subordinate to what's happening in the kitchen. I want it to
Right.
be just as cool.
Right. Do you feel like at the moment in time that was the opening of Highlands Bar and Grill, was it easier to run a restaurant then or harder? And what I mean by that is obviously there probably weren't as many experienced cooks. There wasn't, but there were fewer restaurants, so maybe there was a more sense of acceptance and curiosity.
You know, I don't know. One of the things that I think that the people of Birmingham did support us, but it really took some national press. I think the first big article that broke was in Playboy magazine, and at the time they had a decent food.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And so, and then there was Met Home, and then there was Bon Appetit, and then there was, and so there was, Pat Conroy, and there, but it took some outsiders of Birmingham to say, wow, this place is really special. I mean, it could, it's kind of like on this, it's out of its league. And so for local people needed to hear that to really say, oh, well, maybe we won't go to New Orleans this weekend. Maybe we'll just come and eat here. Yeah.
That's special. What, do you remember the opening menu?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, there was cornbread and there was quail and there was, Bill Neal was another influence to me, along with Edna Lewis. And so I certainly was trying to lean into some of our Southern traditions. And, most of the cooks, most of our employees were African Americans. Mm-hmm. And so, and in fact, a lot of those people worked with us for decades. And I think that there was something that we represented, maybe, that people could tell that I would not accept any racist behavior, and that we were going to treat people with respect, and we were going to show people, whether they were a farmer, a dishwasher, or our guest, that there was an honorable sincerity and authenticity. And I think that people picked up on that, if subconsciously or consciously.
I love that.
How did you frame the question?
Well, I remember the long drive home from the coast was like 5 hours in the car. We were processing. He's always been a natural entrepreneur. So as long as I've known him, he's always had these sort of independent ideas running through his head of business.
Jewelry at farmers markets when I first moved to the Bay Area.
I love
He was like always inventing businesses, and he had studied information technology in your MBA program. So he was geared towards the tech world, but had never really gotten in that because it was so flooded at the time that we lived in California. So I knew at some point when we moved here and got settled, we'd save up money and he would try to start his own business. But at that time, I remember thinking, he had been moving so fast ever since coming here from India to do his degree. He jumped right into sales in California. And then, you got to earn a good living in California to be able to get by. So there was always this sort of hustle and working really hard. He had never had a moment to just really explore what he most wanted to do. And
I mean, and you got to remember, as an Indian, for me, that's a luxury.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean explore what you want to do?
You don't go to college to find yourself like we did.
There is
get
no
to work.
finding yourself.
You get to
in
work.
India.
You just was like one thing after another. And I felt like he had never had the gift that I had of going to college and really exploring. I took time off. I traveled around the world. I trekked the Himalayas. I did all these things to figure out who am I? And he'd never had that time. So I said something to you along the lines of, if we're going to jump off this financial cliff to start a business, because that seemed what was going to be needed. We loved this area. There was nothing in the economy that we could figure out that would provide jobs for us here. So short of having to leave this area and go to another big city just for a job, we were like, we're going to have to invent something here. So if you're going to invent something, it should be something that you feel really passionate about, something you really want to do, something that really lights you up.
I mean,
I love that. by the
yeah.
way.
I mean, what I heard, now that I can reflect on it, I guess what I heard back then in 2009 was, you've spent all of our time together just focusing on being a provider, the right thing to do. If you didn't have to approach it from that standpoint, and I think Molly also said, like, the place is coming apart. Like, what's there to lose? It's like,
We got to take the jump anyway.
yeah. And people ask often, even till today, is like, in the middle of a financial crisis, you took such a big risk. And my point is, like, when things are going great, it's really hard to take a big risk. It's, you mentioned losing a job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And then you said, okay, let me do this thing that you never, if your job had not disappeared, would you have found it?
No, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I sometimes say I'm the accidental entrepreneur, because I was fine working as long as my values aligned and I was inspired by the work. I was a vice president of food and beverage for 8 hotels, and I was enjoying the work.
That's so funny. I always called myself an accidental restaurateur.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same. I mean,
thing,
I was like, I literally have no other options.
Yeah, that's what
and
it felt
I met
like.
the guys that are still my partners today they're Wall Street guys, by the way, which is crazy. I was like, yeah, well, we're going to make this company and we're going to open all these things.
Right.
And I had never met them, and they were like, okay, we'll do it. You know, that's how it
Amazing.
happens, though, right?
It is.
But what's unusual in your case, in my case, and in many, I think for a lot of folks, is that they use that moment to do the thing, whereas most people use that moment to not do the thing
Not do
because
the
they're
thing.
afraid, because you're
Right.
scared. You know, you just want to pull back. So that's never let a good crisis go to waste.
That's right.
This was one of those moments where
Yes.
Molly's like,
I
don't
might
let this
use
go to
that
waste.
again.
You know,
Yeah.
This is an opportunity.
this is an opportunity to do something that, normally speaking, you never would take the risk
Wouldn't
to
even
do. You
consider
wouldn't,
it.
you wouldn't stop being a provider.
There wasn't a day for the first year that went by that I didn't think about quitting because it was hard. I think a few things. One was the ability to give feedback even when it was difficult. The second was to receive feedback when it was difficult. And I think the superpower of all superpowers is the ability to be vulnerable,
Amen.
to say, I don't know what I'm doing, or I got it wrong. Those are the three things that I think for me, and to this day, vulnerability is a thing not that I've mastered, but I feel like I'm pretty good at it.
I would agree.
Giving feedback, still to this day, as many people, unfortunately, that I've had to part ways with, it's still not something that I love to do. And receive feedback, as much as I'm like, I want feedback.
Yeah.
When I get it, it doesn't always feel good.
Right.
But usually that's when I need it the most.
I heard something recently. When making someone not feel uncomfortable trumps telling the truth, we have lost our way.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would agree with you. I think vulnerability, like I still don't know what I'm doing, and I have grown this really big company, and I say that to my team to remind them, like, asking for help is a sign of intelligence,
Mhm.
not a sign of weakness. But you decided to stay.
Yeah.
Why?
My mom.
Okay.
It was a very tumultuous time for me personally. Also professionally, doing something that I had never done before at that
Right.
level. She told me, she's like, you got to give it a year before you give up. You have to. And thank God I listened to her, because it was like month 9 or 10 is where things started to feel normal, right? The having an uncomfortable conversation kind of was like, I can tell him not to be late, or I can pull him in the office and have a private conversation with him. I think honestly, like, I'd love to say, well, my pure grit and maybe there was some of that was involved, but my mom saying you have to give it a year.
What about you, Sarah Charles?
I mean, I feel like it really does require a certain kind of human that wants to devote their lives to this. I think it is kind of a transitional industry for so many people.
It is. It's very transitory for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
And I do think that that's part of the beauty of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it really is a specific kind of person that will do all of those things that Chef just described, and I think finding someone that's able to balance like all of the needs, the desires of like the functionality of the space with the needs, desires of the guests is, it is a challenge. And I think in my experience, again, it was just like, well, what's your real job? What's your real job? Like, well, you're not doing this.
I hate it when people, I'm like, I just work 14 hours. It feels pretty real to me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I couldn't say, and especially when I was coming up, there was no internet. This is how old I am. There was no Top Chef. There was no foodies. There was no Instagram. So it was a lot of, well, I'm just doing this till I get a real job.
Exactly. And I mean, candidly, being a woman in this industry as well was like hard. I had it literally took a pandemic for me to have a moment to be like, okay, like I can find my voice, I can exercise that a little bit. Like it literally took an act of God for that to happen. So I feel like, and I will say, when the pandemic happened, I did have this moment of like, this is such a cool opportunity because it will allow our industry as a whole to be able to kind of reevaluate and hopefully like remind people what, sacred spaces, food, like restaurants and bars are, because it's where we come on our worst days. It's where we come on our best days.
That's
and
right.
Every day in between.
That's right.
And being able to, better highlight the work of all the people that are in those spaces providing for those opportunities. And I will say, like, in my experience in the past 5 years, I genuinely feel that there is a change in our industry. And I think that we are moving towards less toxicity, more visibility, more celebration of each other and camaraderie and collaboration. I personally have felt a palpable shift. So I think perhaps it's a narrative of the days of past that hopefully we're, growing into a new moment. I think so much about Savannah, my colleague, my other half, and she's so young, and the opportunity that she has to make such important and such a marked shift from where I came up from. And there have been a couple of times in the past, like 6 months, that I've caught myself saying something to her, and I'll be like, well, this is just how this is. And then about an hour later, I'll come back to her and I'll be like, it doesn't have to be that way for you, because you have an opportunity to write a whole new script than where I came up from or for where any of us came up from. So I'm really excited to see where she is when she is my age, in 10 plus years, and see the space that she's built, because I genuinely believe that this new breath of fresh air of this young generation coming into hospitality is extremely exciting.
I agree. And I think when even like things like AI, I keep saying people are going to crave this connection even more. So I feel like there's so much runway with hospitality. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Say Grace, Food for Thought and Hospitality. We hope you join us next time as we continue to dive deeper into the inspirational stories about the transformative power of hospitality.